Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and for those who don't know, I've been participating quite a bit in Historathon 2024, which is sort of a year-long history reading challenge event that is hosted by several cool people with a really cool Discord. I'll leave links down below to some of the creators of the Historathon, so you can go check out their content as well. But we're in about the middle of the quarter two of sort of the challenge, which is roughly the years 500 to 1500, and I think the idea was kind of like the medieval period. And I've just been really doing bad with my medieval reading this year for whatever reason. I can't think of a single like really good one that I've read since like the middle of last year. So I think I need to find. I was trying to think of some way to kind of remedy that. And just none of the ones on my shelves. I have like 2 shelves of medieval history ones, and like out of the ones I still have, it just wasn't feeling like any of them for whatever reason. So I decided I'd go explore the internet for some medieval history book recommendations, and now I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, got 9-ish, I guess 8 and like a bonus one, I guess, history book recommendations for the years 500 to 1500, kind of mostly on the medieval period, that have been published within the last 12 months or so. So I'm really excited to like start looking for these on sale or whatever. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with kind of a really interesting one. It's Here Begins the Dark Sea, Venice, a Medieval Monk, and the Creation of the Most Accurate Map of the World. This is by Meredith Small, and it came out last year. And this is all about the creation of the Mappa Mundi, I believe is what it's called, which was like, I think it was like a 7 or 8 foot map of the world. And this is in like the middle of the 1400s, a couple of generations before Magellan and Columbus and stuff. Yeah, a Venetian monk named, I think his name was Fra Mauro or something like that. And he was like a geographer and cartographer, and wanted to compile like, an accurate map of the world, which before then cartography kind of dealt a lot with, I don't want to say mythology and stuff per se, but you always kind of had, over there, here be dragons and stuff. And then in the medieval period, that actually was sort of a thing, where you kind of taking like little anecdotes from things like, Herodotus, where, there's giant ants that dig for gold and stuff like that. You would literally put that on maps for whatever reason. But apparently this book is kind of all about exploring kind of the evolution of cartography and how this was kind of like one of the maps that really kind of pushed the game forward a little bit to making it a little bit more scientific and rigorous and stuff. But it's also kind of a life and times of the city of Venice in the 15th century. Just sounds really cool, kind of learning about one of the Italian city-states, at the end of kind of the medieval period and everything. It just sounded really cool, and that's why I wrote it on the list. Now, the next one is a book that several in Historathon on the Discord had like mentioned, and a few had started reading, and it's a big boy. It's The New Roman Empire: A History of Byzantium by Anthony Kaldellis. And this clocks in, I think, around like 1,200 pages, something like that. And it's just, it's just a modern, up-to-date, kind of single-volume overview of the entire history of the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as like the Byzantine Empire. And he's written several other books on different portions of Byzantine history as well, from what I was able to gather. But yeah, just for the general consensus from what I saw from different reviews, and also like I said, the readers over on the Discord channel, really enjoying it so far. It is a little intimidating, just because, like I said, that's the I think, yeah, I want to say it was 11 or 1,200 pages, and it's definitely a brick, so it's probably one you want to kind of spread out a little bit. Not sure you'd be able to read that all in, a couple days or whatnot. But yeah, Byzantium, I feel like the Byzantine Empire definitely gets overshadowed a lot in medieval history. But if you really think about it, from the time, I guess if you come from the time of like Constantine, kind of founding the city, or refounding the city, I suppose you would probably be more accurate, all the way up to what, 1453? I mean, that's over 1,000 years of history, pretty much covering the entire span of the medieval period. Plus, if you think about it, you're only a few decades away from the Byzantine Empire existing when, the New World is discovered or whatever. It's just kind of a crazy thought, just kind of the breadth in time kind of going on there. So I think it'd just be a good way to... I've only read a few books on Byzantine stuff, so I figured just a one giant volume overview, maybe for like March of the Mammoth next year or something like that. I don't know. And this kind of leads into the bonus one, and it's Justinian, Emperor, Soldier, Saint by Peter Saris. This comes in at like 500-ish pages, and this is just barely in, the prompt range of like 500 to 1500. Because I believe his reign was mostly throughout the 500s there. But Emperor Justinian is probably the most famous emperor in Byzantine history, if you don't count Constantine. As far as like actual Byzantine, he probably is like the big one. And he's famous for there's the plague of Justinian that kind of affected his reign. He's fighting the Persians and stuff in the east. The Sassanid Persian Empire. But he also fights the Ostrogothic Wars with his general Belisarius and stuff, and that's kind of like the big thing, like trying to reclaim the Western Roman Empire and whatnot, and kind of delving into whether that was good or bad for them. I think the general consensus he was one of those ones that's kind of like a towering figure, but really like all his like things might have had a big impact in the moment, but for the long term was just really bad, for the long haul. But anyways, like I said, that's kind of like a bonus one attached to the new Roman Empire one. Next up is one that literally just came out. It's House of Lilies, the dynasty that made medieval France by Justine Fernheimer Baker. And this, like I said, this one just came out like I think this month, at least in like the United States. I think it might have came out in the UK a little bit earlier. But this is all about like the Capetian dynasty in France during the High Middle Ages. And I guess if you're like looking for a real medieval history book, I do feel like a lot of medieval history, that's written in English is slanted for the English and stuff on the English side of the channel and everything like that. So I think it's definitely going to be kind of cool to learn about the High Middle Ages more from the French perspective of things kind of going on. And it's called House of Lilies because they are the first dynasty. They're the ones that kind of start the whole fleur-de-lis thing kind of going on, which is sort of like a symbolic version of a lily. So anyways, I think it's going to be really cool. It looks pretty well regarded from what I was able to see just from like the synopsis and the little blurbs and stuff that other people had put like on the press releases and everything. But anyways, that one sounds really good as well. Now, Ian Mortimer, who's actually pretty famous for like his whole like time traveling guy, like time traveling to like I can't remember what the book is called. A Time Traveler's Guide to the Middle Ages and the Elizabethan Age and stuff like that. He also has one that came out fairly recent called Medieval Horizons, Why the Middle Ages Matter. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually even really like look into it that much. I know Ian Mortimer is really highly regarded, and a few people on the Discord, on the Historathon Discord, were actually talking about how they were able to attend different kind of like visiting lectures that he had done and stuff, and how he's just a really kind of cool, funny, great speaker, and you like learn a lot from him, and he just seems really awesome. So I just put his like most recent work, which just came out a couple months ago, on this list as well. I actually haven't read Time Traveler's Guide to the Middle Ages. It's mostly because like it's so ubiquitous. Like when you look up like medieval history books, that's like one of the ones that always shows up, and I'm always kind of skeptical of the ones that always just get like all the hype and stuff. I always feel like let down every now and then, so that's kind of why I was like avoiding it. But I'm gonna try Medieval Horizons first, and then if it's really good, then I'll move on to probably some of his other books. Next up is like a warfare book. I think I got one or two of those, and it's Deception in Medieval Warfare: Trickery and Cunning in the Central Middle Ages by James Tillerton. And this just came out recently. I don't read a whole lot of military history one, but this one just kind of caught my eye, just because it's all about kind of the underhanded stuff, the not so chivalrous stuff. The High Middle Ages and Late Middle Ages, it's all about, the courtly virtues and chivalry and all that kind of stuff. But when you read a lot of the primary sources, I remember doing some stuff in college and then some other books, and it was always talking about like all the ways different like vassals and knights and stuff, like when their lord would like call upon them to like fulfill your oath as as the vassal and everything, they would always be like, okay, yeah, sure, after I do this, that, and the other thing. Then they would like show up late to the campaign and not really be able to participate, or they'd be like, oh, I forgot like all my armor, I can't really be a knight without my armor. And it was like there's actual like documented like evidence of this like happening. So and that's not exactly like what this book is obviously going to be about, but it kind of just shows that it wasn't always the most valorous and chivalrous kind of atmosphere, even though that's kind of what's portrayed nowadays. So I think this book is going to be all about just the different ways people were able to win different campaigns and battles through kind of ignoble means, per se, whether that's good or bad or not. I think it's just kind of a good like foil to kind of like the exemplariness, I guess, that they always the aristocracy kind of always like kind of put itself out as during the High Middle Ages. Now the next one is one I'm really excited about. It's 1217, the battles that saved England. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know much about 1217. I couldn't think of any battles that like were a big deal. That was right after Magna Carta, because that was in 1215. So I think King John was dead, I think, in 1216. So I'm not even really sure what the big battles were. However, the author is Catherine Hanley, and this book just came out a couple weeks ago as well. But Catherine Hanley, I'm going to try to read all her backlog, because she was the one that wrote the biography of Matilda that I really, really, really enjoyed last year on Empress Matilda. So I know it's going to be really good. I'm going to learn a lot, and it's just going to be, you know, an awesome read. So that's the reason I'm doing this. Plus, like I said, I don't even know really what's going on in 1217. So yeah, I purposely was like trying to leave it a little blank. I know I could have just like kind of researched that a little bit as well, but kind of want to get this book and have the book kind of fill everything in from like kind of a blank canvas or something like that. But like I said, it's from an author I really enjoy on the medieval period, so I feel like it's going to be pretty good as well. Next up, we have Crypt, Life, Death, and Disease in the Middle Ages and Beyond by Alice Roberts. Now, she's a pretty well-known scientist, and I think in the UK and stuff, she's a pretty well-regarded like history kind of presenter, like on different television programs and things like that. She edited the Folio Book of Science that I'm kind of like slowly like going through and stuff, and that's kind of what I looked her up and everything. But she's got a couple other books kind of in a similar vein. I think one's called Buried, that I think I started an audiobook like a long time ago, and just like never finished. I think I only read like or listened to like the first chapter or something. But anyway, she's really highly regarded. This one's kind of like on the medieval period, so it's gonna be all about like archaeology, kind of looking at the different, you know, skeletons and things that have been uncovered, the different remains and physical artifacts and stuff, and kind of, like I said, doing kind of like what archaeology does and trying to use those to kind of synthesize sort of what is kind of going on in the Middle Ages as far as like, you know, do these like different kind of bone deformities mean they were like working really hard on certain things, this, that, and the other thing. I don't know. It just sounds like really cool, and it's a very like scientific approach to the matter at hand. And then lastly, we have one that I put on because it had like I think it had the most reviews. I think on Goodreads it had like 2,000 or something like that. It's Unruly, The Ridiculous History of England's Kings and Queens by David Mitchell. And this came out at the end of last year as well. And this is definitely the most popular book on the list so far. And it's just got really good reviews. Plus, I thought the cover was pretty good. I've read a couple of books kind of on, I guess, goofy things. Maybe not goofy is not the right word. On like medieval people, or I guess not medieval people, aristocratic kind of royalty people like around the world and stuff. I also remember I read kind of in a similar vein to this one on England. It was like Lost Heirs of the Medieval Crown. And I really enjoyed that one as well. I think this is going to be kind of in the same vein, but just with, you know, really weird and strange like stories and stuff. Because like as I think George R. Martin said, like, you know, you don't need to make up a lot of stuff when you like research the history, because it was just so wacky and out there. They've pretty much already done like half the things that you write about in fantasy and everything, even like the darker stuff. So anyways, those are the 9 books that I was able to come up with that were kind of published within, like I said, the last year or so. And I'm hoping some of these end up being like really, really good. Just kind of restart my kind of medieval history reading. It's just been very middle of the road. Nothing like really awful. But I think out of the last like dozen books I've read on the Middle Ages thing, I don't think anything was higher than like 4 stars or whatever that I like kind of rank them on. So I'm just kind of looking for like one really good standout book, hopefully in the near future. If you got a medieval history book that you'd like to recommend to me, that's it doesn't even have to be fairly recent. If you got a medieval history book that you know was like a really good 5-star read for you, leave a comment down below and I'll be definitely sure to check it all out. But always remember, whether you're reading medieval history or not, always remember, read victoriously.